Sam is the only collector in his family. He doesn't have a whole lot of people to share this with, to talk about this with.
This one's rough.
Right.
But it's still cool, man. I mean, how long have you had this? Where'd you get this?
20 years ago in Hillsdale, New Jersey.
Fans spent years believing Mike Wolfe, Frank Fritz, and Danielle Colby were inseparable. Together, they turned American Pickers into one of television's biggest success stories, traveling America's back roads in search of forgotten treasures. But behind their friendship and the roadside discoveries, cracks were beginning to form. Frank's departure, Danielle's silence, and Mike's decisions sparked years of rumors, accusations, and unanswered questions. So what really happened between the trio that built American Pickers? And did Danielle actually confirm what fans had suspected all along? Join us as we uncover the truth behind the rumors. The story behind American Pickers' broken friendship. When the series premiered on the History Channel in January 2010, viewers weren't simply tuning in to watch people buy antiques. They were watching personalities whose differences made the show feel genuine. Mike Wolfe was the dreamer, always chasing the next forgotten treasure. Frank Fritz usually brought a practical, often sarcastic perspective that balanced Mike's enthusiasm. Then there was Danielle Colby, whose sharp wit kept antique archaeology running while the two pickers crisscrossed the country. This concept itself came from Mike Wolfe. For years before television found him, he had traveled America's back roads searching for vintage motorcycles, advertising signs, gas pumps, and other pieces of American history that many people overlooked. He believed every rusting object had a story worth preserving. And after years of pitching the idea, the History Channel finally gave it a chance, and Mike knew exactly who he wanted beside him. Frank Fritz wasn't just another picker. The two had known each other since childhood in Iowa, spending decades attending flea markets and antique shows together before television ever entered the picture. Their shared knowledge gave the series an effortless chemistry that audiences loved. Danielle's role was just as important, although she spent less time on the road. Mike had known her for years before the show began, and he trusted her to become the face of antique archaeology whenever the cameras returned to the shop. She wasn't simply answering phones or greeting customers. Danielle coordinated purchases, managed the business, handled logistics, and frequently became the bridge between buyers, sellers, and the pickers on the road. Her humor and confidence added another dimension to the series, preventing it from becoming repetitive. Together, the three created a balance that felt natural rather than mechanical. That chemistry translated into remarkable success. During its early seasons, American Pickers became one of the History Channel's highest-rated programs, regularly attracting millions of viewers. Fans appreciated that the show focused as much on the people selling the antiques as the items themselves. Every barn, garage, and forgotten collection came with a personal history. And Mike, Frank, and Danielle treated those stories with genuine curiosity. Instead of chasing manufactured drama, the series celebrated ordinary Americans and the memories hidden inside everyday objects. Because the friendships appeared so effortless, many viewers assumed what they saw on screen reflected real life. Mike and Frank joked like lifelong friends because they were. But television often captures only part of the story. Behind the scenes, personal challenges, changing priorities, and years of working together were beginning to test relationships that fans believed were unbreakable. But if Mike and Frank really had decades of friendship before television made them famous, what happened between them that caused one of reality TV's closest partnerships to fall apart? Why Danielle couldn't escape the fallout? As Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz's friendship quietly unraveled, Danielle Colby found herself in an impossible position. Unlike fans watching from home, she wasn't reading about the fallout in headlines. She was living through it. Having worked with both men since American Pickers began, Danielle wasn't simply witnessing the end of a television partnership. She was watching two people she had known for years drift further apart, while millions expected her to explain what was happening. Long before viewers realized anything had changed, Danielle had already watched the dynamic inside the show evolve. Frank was dealing with serious health problems, including Crohn's disease and later back surgery in 2020, forcing him away from filming. Most fans assumed the break was temporary. Danielle never suggested otherwise, and there was little public indication that Frank's departure would become permanent. Then everything changed. In July 2021, the History Channel confirmed Frank would not return to American Pickers. Mike continued filming with his brother Robbie Wolfe, while Danielle remained in her role at Antique Archaeology. Overnight, fans began looking at her differently. Instead of seeing her as the shop manager and longtime cast member, they started viewing her as someone who must know what had happened behind closed doors. What made the situation even more complicated was Danielle's history with both men. From the earliest seasons, viewers had watched her joke with Mike and Frank, coordinate pickups from Antique Archaeology, and celebrate some of the show's biggest discoveries. Although her screen time was different from theirs, she had always been presented as an essential part of the trio. That long history meant fans naturally assumed she knew far more than she was saying. As online discussions intensified, social media quickly filled the gaps left by the lack of official answers. Some viewers argued Danielle had chosen to remain loyal to Mike because she continued appearing on the series after Frank's departure. Others insisted she was simply honoring professional obligations and respecting the privacy of people she had worked with for years. Without a public statement from Danielle herself, speculation spread much faster than verified facts, turning her silence into one of the most debated parts of the entire controversy. The pressure only intensified when Frank publicly revealed that he and Mike had barely spoken for years. His interview with The Sun shocked viewers and quickly fueled accusations that Mike had pushed him aside. Because Danielle didn't immediately respond, many people assumed her silence meant agreement. Others believed she was protecting Mike. Some even claimed she had abandoned Frank entirely. But none of those conclusions came from Danielle herself. In reality, she avoided commenting publicly while the disagreement continued to dominate headlines. Rather than confirming anyone's version of events, she stayed out of a dispute that involved two people she had known for decades. To outsiders, that silence looked suspicious. To Danielle, it may simply have been the only way to avoid making an already painful situation even worse. If Danielle refused to speak while Frank and Mike's relationship fell apart, why did she finally decide to address the situation later? And did her comments actually confirm what fans had believed all along? Why Danielle stayed silent for so long? As Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz's fractured friendship became front-page entertainment news, fans expected Danielle Colby to step in almost immediately. After all, she wasn't just another cast member. She had been there since American Pickers began, working alongside both men for more than a decade. Because she was close to each of them, many viewers assumed she would either defend Frank, support Mike, or explain what had really happened. Instead, Danielle did something that frustrated many fans. She stayed largely silent. Meanwhile, across Facebook, Reddit, YouTube, and Instagram, viewers began asking the same questions. Had Danielle chosen Mike's side? Had she abandoned Frank? Or was she simply avoiding controversy to protect her place on the show? The longer she avoided discussing the situation publicly, the more those questions turned into rumors. For some fans, her refusal to comment felt like an answer in itself. But Danielle later explained that the reality was far more complicated. One of Danielle's clearest messages came after fans repeatedly asked why Frank was no longer on the show. She explained that Frank needed time to heal and focus on himself, adding that she genuinely hoped he would recover. At the same time, she continued working with Mike because American Pickers was still her job and because she had known Mike for many years before the series even existed. To some viewers, those two facts seemed contradictory. To Danielle, they weren't. She also pushed back against the idea that every disagreement deserved to become public entertainment. While viewers had watched the trio together for years, Danielle reminded fans that they were still real people with private relationships, personal struggles, and conversations that didn't belong on social media. Not every disagreement, she suggested, could or should be explained through an Instagram post. Another important factor was Frank's health. Even before his devastating stroke in July 2022, he had spoken openly about living with Crohn's disease and recovering from back surgery. Danielle appeared careful not to say anything that might add unnecessary pressure during what was already an incredibly difficult period in his life. Rather than commenting on every headline, she largely chose empathy over public debate. Of course, her silence didn't stop the criticism. Some fans remained convinced she had chosen loyalty to Mike over loyalty to Frank simply because she continued appearing on the show. Others believed she was trying to stay neutral in a deeply personal conflict that outsiders could never fully understand. Without hearing every private conversation between the three, neither side could say with certainty what had really happened. Looking back, Danielle's silence seems less like an attempt to hide something and more like a deliberate decision not to inflame an already painful situation. But when she finally began speaking more openly after Frank's passing, many fans wondered whether her words would confirm the rumors they had believed for years or completely challenge them. So, when Danielle finally addressed Frank's death and reflected on their friendship, did she actually confirm that she had chosen Mike over Frank? Or had fans misunderstood her all along? Did Danielle really choose Mike over Frank? By the time Frank Fritz's departure from American Pickers became one of reality television's biggest talking points, many fans believed they already knew who had taken sides. Mike Wolfe was continuing the show with his brother Robbie, while Danielle Colby remained part of the cast and continued promoting new episodes. To some viewers, that alone was enough to conclude she had chosen Mike over Frank. But did the evidence actually support that conclusion, or were fans filling in the blanks themselves? The perception largely came from timing. Frank publicly criticized his relationship with Mike in 2021, saying they hadn't spoken in years and expressing disappointment over how his exit had been handled. Around the same time, Danielle continued filming, appearing in promotional material and posting about new episodes on social media. Because she wasn't publicly defending Frank, some viewers interpreted her silence as support for Mike. However, Danielle never publicly stated that she had chosen one friend over the other. Instead, her comments consistently reflected a more nuanced position. She acknowledged that she cared about Frank and wanted him to heal, while also continuing her long-standing friendship and professional relationship with Mike. At the same time, Danielle and Frank had also developed a genuine friendship through years of filming together. As speculation intensified online, she repeatedly discouraged fans from assuming they understood everything happening behind the scenes. She suggested that the public only saw a small portion of a much larger and more personal situation. Then everything changed in September 2024, when Frank Fritz passed away at the age of 60 following complications from the stroke he had suffered 2 years earlier. In the days that followed, Danielle finally shared a deeply personal tribute. that offered perhaps the clearest insight yet into how she truly felt about the friend she had worked beside for so many years. So, what did Danielle actually say after Frank's passing, and did her tribute finally put years of speculation to rest? Did Danielle ever blame Mike? When Frank Fritz passed away on September 30th, 2024, many viewers expected Danielle Colby to finally answer the question that had followed her for years. Did she believe Mike Wolfe was responsible for what happened between them? Social media was filled with speculation that she would reveal what had really gone on behind the scenes of American Pickers. But when Danielle finally spoke publicly, what she didn't say turned out to be just as significant as what she did. In the emotional tribute she shared after Frank's passing, Danielle focused almost entirely on Frank himself. She remembered him as someone she loved deeply, describing him as a complicated person with an enormous heart. She reflected on their years of friendship, the memories they shared, and the qualities that viewers never got to see away from the cameras. Noticeably absent, however, was any criticism of Mike Wolfe. She didn't accuse him of pushing Frank out, confirm years of online rumors, or suggest there had been some hidden betrayal behind the scenes. That silence disappointed people hoping for dramatic revelations, but it also reinforced something Danielle had consistently done throughout the controversy. Rather than commenting on the private disagreements between two men she had known for decades, she chose to speak only about her own relationship with Frank. Even while acknowledging that friendships can be messy and imperfect, she avoided assigning public blame or inviting fans to take sides. Mike also shared his own tribute, describing Frank as a longtime friend and saying he was heartbroken by the news of his death. Once again, Danielle didn't weigh in on Mike's statement or compare it with Frank's earlier comments about their fractured relationship. She simply allowed her own words to stand on their own. That approach was consistent with how Danielle had handled the situation for years. Even when fans repeatedly tagged her in posts asking her to explain what had happened between Mike and Frank, she largely resisted the temptation to become the story herself. Instead of giving interviews that dissected their falling out or fueling speculation online, she kept the focus on her own experiences and the people she cared about. In doing so, she left many of the questions surrounding the trio unanswered, even though she was one of the few people who had witnessed their working relationship from the very beginning. For some fans, that wasn't enough. They believed Danielle was still protecting Mike by refusing to address the controversy directly. Others saw it differently, arguing that her decision reflected respect for Frank's memory rather than a desire to revisit years of painful public speculation. Whatever people believed, one fact remained unchanged. Danielle never publicly blamed Mike Wolfe for Frank's departure from American Pickers, nor did she confirm the rumors that had circulated online for years. Ironically, the absence of those accusations became part of the story itself. That left one final question hanging over the entire controversy. If Danielle never confirmed the rumors about Mike, why have so many people become convinced that she did? And what does the evidence actually show when you separate fact from speculation? The truth behind the rumors. By the time the headlines, YouTube videos, and social media posts had circulated for several years, it almost seemed as though the verdict had already been reached. According to countless online discussions, Mike Wolfe had betrayed Frank Fritz, Danielle Colby had chosen Mike over Frank, and American Pickers had become the victim of greed and disloyalty. But when you separate verified facts from internet speculation, the picture becomes far less dramatic and far more complicated. There are several things that are firmly established. Frank Fritz left American Pickers after undergoing back surgery in 2020. In 2021, he publicly stated that he and Mike had not spoken in years and expressed disappointment over how his departure had been handled. Mike later said, he was saddened by the situation and hoped Frank would recover. In July 2022, Frank suffered a severe stroke that permanently changed his life, and in September 2024, he passed away at the age of 60. One of the biggest rumors claimed Danielle had secretly turned against Frank. Although Danielle never publicly celebrated Frank's departure, criticized him, or suggested she wanted him removed from the show, what people interpreted as taking Mike's side was largely the fact that she continued working on American Pickers. Another persistent rumor suggested that Mike deliberately forced Frank off the series. While Frank certainly believed he had been treated unfairly, neither the History Channel nor any verified source has confirmed that Mike alone made the decision to remove him. Television productions involve network executives, production companies, contracts, insurance considerations, and many business decisions that viewers rarely see. That doesn't erase Frank's feelings, but it does mean the complete story has never been made public. The show's declining ratings have also been blamed entirely on Frank's absence. There is little doubt that many viewers stopped watching after he left, and audience numbers did decline over time. Perhaps the biggest lesson is how quickly rumors become accepted as facts online. A single interview becomes dozens of videos. Speculation becomes certainty. Emotional reactions become evidence. Before long, millions of people are repeating claims that were never actually confirmed. That's why Danielle's recent comments matter. She didn't expose a hidden conspiracy. She didn't confirm years of online theories. Instead, she reminded people that real friendships, especially those built over decades, are often complicated in ways outsiders can never fully understand. In the end, perhaps the saddest part of the American Pickers story isn't that every question has been answered. It's that some never will be. Frank is gone. The trio that viewers loved can never be reunited. And much of what happened behind closed doors remains known only to the people who lived it. So, after hearing the full story, what do you think really happened between Mike Wolfe, Frank Fritz, and Danielle Colby? And do you believe the internet unfairly judged Danielle's silence? Or should she have spoken out much sooner? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You'll enjoy it.